So I see we've got a couple of mechanicals, aerospace. I'm trying to actually see everybody.
Very good. That's always a good start.
It is.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I'm not able to see. Let's see, maybe I need to scroll up. That's probably it. Aerospace mechanical, three mechanicals, electrical is joining us. That's great. Let's see what else. Okay, we have any civils joining us? We got to have some civils joining us. I'd be shocked if we didn't have anybody from civil engineering or construction here.
I'm half civil by background.
I was going to say you have to be a civil doing what you're doing, Sam. So
Yeah.
I would think we would have quite a few civils here, but it looks like the predominant group right now is mechanical. Very interesting.
Ah, very good.
But now let's see, we don't have everybody here. We do have, I usually wait just a few minutes past 4 to give everybody a chance. Sometimes the classes end at 4 and it helps to give them just a couple more minutes. So thanks to those of you who told us your major. If you haven't told us your major, go ahead and drop that in the chat. And we will start shortly. Another mechanical.
Yep.
Quite a few. That's great. You know, it's interesting because I talk to students all the time about how to get internships and jobs, Sam, and typically our civils don't have a problem because Las Vegas really is a civil engineering kind of town. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. You're on the civil side, call that transportation, call that wastewater, call that pipelines, call that McCarran, the airports. Civil is very heavy.
Yeah.
And it's always been that way. And that, along with high-rise construction. But the civil and the residential, for grading and layouts and street work, et cetera, civil has always been very heavy and very popular.
And so because mechanicals tend to have a harder time, it seems like, and I think that's, I know that's probably real, but I don't like to support that argument too much because I want them to stay positive and I want them to recognize that there is a lot of crossover. Even with civil engineering, they hire a ton of mechanicals.
Oh, absolutely. And a lot of folks get tied up with the high rises downtown, in regards to the mechanical, the heating, ventilation systems, fire systems, et cetera. There's a lot of diverse work. Even though you're in the casino business or the heavy commercial business, there's a lot of diverse work out there that needs a lot of multidisciplined folks. One of the programs I really love is entertainment engineering there at UNLV. It's one of the few schools in the country that have that. But entertainment engineering for any of the shows downtown, it's mechanical, electrical, hardcore mechanical, electrical, a little bit of civil, structural, et cetera. And some of the shows, some of the product we've seen get built for the downtown shows is just unbelievable. The CA show in particular. CA has that big rotating platform that you can put 25 to 30 actors on there, and it's just impressive what they do with that. But,
yeah, I'm really glad to hear you say that, and I hope we get into more of that in your presentation. I don't want to give your presentation away, but I know that students really, especially Diego just said it's even harder now with the pandemic, and I know that's something they're probably going to ask you to address is, is the hiring still, has it gotten back to pre-virus levels? Do you, and we can talk about that in your presentation, but I know those are the kinds of things that they're going to be probably very, very interested in today. So
Cool.
why don't we get started? It's about 4:03. We'll probably have some more. We had about 42 people sign up for this today, so we're about halfway there. But they can join us as they come in. So welcome everybody. I'm Marion Mason, Director of Engineering Career Services. Delighted to welcome you to another Engineering Excellence webinar. We had started these a year or so ago. We've been doing them. They really got popular, obviously, when we couldn't do these in person. They became virtual, and we're really glad to have you. I know people get screen fatigue and all of that, but I think you're in for a real treat today with Sam Palmer. So if I may, I'd like to introduce the speaker. He is the Assistant Director for the Clark County Fire and Building Prevention, and he's an engineer. He actually attended UNLV. He graduated from UNR because we were not an accredited engineering program at that time. So you got to go where the accreditation is. That's why our faculty is always, tie themselves in knots when we're trying to go through ABET accreditation over and over and over again. I think it happens every, 2 or 3 years or something like that. They come back and review us and check us and make sure we are accredited. So there you go. So you lose people if you don't have accredited programs. So he's responsible for so much in this position, and Sam will talk more about that. But overall, responsible for all the permitting plans checks, the building inspections. That includes the fire building inspections. He does all the engineering and handles the public response and all the code compliance issues for all occupied structures in Clark County. I'm afraid to ask who handles the unoccupied structure, so we won't go there because I know you have your hands full. So Sam, we are so delighted, and I know you're on our College of Engineering Advisory Board, which we're very glad that you're a part of that group, which really helps us navigate our programs and even our career services, and having employers on our advisory board really gives us insight into the local community and what's happening, and you're going to share some of that with us today. Would you like to just start by talking a little bit, an overview of your position? I mean, it sounds unbelievable how much responsibility you have, but welcome.
Marion, thank you very much. Glad to be here. And for you all on the call, hey, thanks for coming in. As Marion said, I'm Sam Palmer. I'm the Assistant Director for the Clark County Department of Building and Fire Prevention. As such, we oversee all occupied structures in Clark County. Now, City of Las Vegas, City of Henderson, City of Boulder City, and the City of North Las Vegas take care of their own areas, but we take care of all the unincorporated Clark County. That includes the main part of the Strip, and we go all the way up to Mesquite, all the way down to Laughlin. And but anything that has people in it, we take a look at it. That could be amusement rides, and we classify monorails, and the Boring Company, which is the new tunnel being built. Those we classify as amusement rides. We take a look at all of those because people will eventually occupy those structures. Could be a high-rise casinos, could be an airport, could be a gas station, could be a house. When you have people in there, we want to make sure that the projects are built in accordance with the current codes, and that design professional, i.e. the engineers, architects, did a great job on them, and that the construction followed through and make sure that they're safe and sound and built in accordance with the approved plans and specs. That's the main job of us. People say, you got to go get a permit. Well, yes, but the reason we issue permits, and us as citizens of the Las Vegas Valley, U.S., et cetera, we all said, hey, we don't want to live, and I'm not being mean, we don't want to live in a third world, fourth world country. We want to have controlled growth, not controlled growth, but we want to have sustainable, safe growth. And to do that, we've developed building codes and fire codes. And because of that, we have all agreed as citizens that we're going to incorporate those codes into law. And we have building laws and fire laws. And we're the agency responsible to make sure that everybody follows them. So we want to make things safe, and we want to make them strong. Now, with that, as far as our high rise and everybody else, every time I get together with any kind of the public, I always say, what happens when the fire alarm goes off? I don't care if you're in a house, gymnasium, or the hotel or whatever. When the fire alarm goes off, you get up and you immediately exit. And the reason we do that is because if you're in a big area, in particular some of the downtown hotels, you may be in structures that are multi-millions of square feet, And by the time you get up from your table or wherever you may be and exit, it may take you multiple minutes to get up and out and find the nearest exit and get to the public way. So when you're in big areas, you hear that fire alarm, or you see the strobes go off, please get up and exit. If it's a false alarm, okay, they'll call you back in, you'll sit back down, but you need to get up and exit the structure. I don't, as far as for the structures themselves, if they burn to the ground, so be it. But all I want to make sure is that you all have time to get out of the buildings, to egress the buildings and get to a safe place. We'll deal with the structure at a later date. If it burns down or partially burns, then we can always fix it, but we can't fix you. So, when you hear it, get up, get out. A little background on myself. Yes, I'm a professional engineer, PE. And if we were in class, I would ask you, what is a PEng? PEng. Well, that's the Canadian equivalent of the U.S. professional engineer. So I'm registered in the United States, i.e. Nevada, and Arizona, Utah, and several states. And then I'm also registered up in Canada. And so I can do work in both areas. And that professional engineering degrees, I encourage all of you, when you're in school, get your EIT, or it's now called the EI, the Engineering Training Exam. Get that under your belt. You can take that, and you can literally take that in your senior year and get that under your belt. And then as soon as you can, in Nevada, you can take your professional engineering degree. Take that as soon as you can, and then you have to wait for a total of 4 years to get 4 years of experience under the direction of a professional. And then you can actually get your PE. But those are just like a doctor gets his MD and a lawyer gets his JD. Those are the signifiers that said, yes, I'm a professional engineer, be that in the US or Canada, and that I am authorized, I'm trained, I'm knowledgeable enough to perform the work of engineering in the states that I'm registered in. That's a good thing to do. But for today, what we wanted to talk about, the title of this is "It's Your Career, Not Just a Job." When you all are in school, you're in school to become engineers, architects, whatever you may be. Most of you all are on the engineering side of the house, which is great. You're looking for a career. You're not just looking for a job. A job, anybody can go get a job. You can go down the street and go flip burgers at McDonald's. That's great. Don't get me wrong. Especially when you're in school and you're trying to earn money to pay tuition, et cetera. That you're going to do. But once you graduate, you're looking to get into a professional career, and as such, that is a very good thing to do. So don't just look at it as a job. You're looking for a career. And people talk about how much money you make and all that. Don't get me wrong, that's important, but that's not the key issue. You're into it for a career, for a profession. You're there to do things because you want to do them well and you want to do them right, because that's your passion, your joy behind them. So please get out there and think of this as a career, not just a way to earn money or occupy yourself from 8 to 5. No, if you do that, it's going to be a long, tough road to go. So do what you enjoy. A little bit of background. Yes, I went to UNLV. I started out there in engineering, and at that time, the program was not accredited. So I went up to Reno, UNR, and finished with my degree up there. I got a degree. My BS is in geological engineering, which is a couple of classes shy of civil and a couple of classes shy of being a geologist. Then I got a minor in environmental studies. And up in Reno, the geological engineering is in the Mackey School of Mines. And it was always funny. People would always look at me with a little bit of a crossed eye saying, hey, wait a second, you're a geological engineer and you get a minor in environmental studies? Those two don't go together. I said, yeah, they do. Absolutely, they do. I think we can do almost anything we want to do, in this world, build structures, mine their ore, take out the minerals, but we can also do it in a safe and sane way, in an environmental friendly way. So we can protect the earth, protect the planet. I came back down to UNLV and or back down to Las Vegas and worked for an outfit that was out of the test site, and worked there as a petroleum geologist for the time, and then went back to school at UNLV and got my master's in business. And I did that for a lot of different reasons, more so I could understand the financials, but also understand the aspects of running my own business. And that's been very helpful. I'm married. Heather, my wife, is from UNLV. She's got her BS and MS in special education. She's a professional teacher. And then I've got three daughters that are all graduates. Two are grads of UNLV, one with her master's from UNLV, one with her master's from Northwestern. And my third daughter is currently an undergrad at UNLV. So I love UNLV. It's a great program, great school. And when I talk doing my talk, I tend to use the term, the guys, whatever. No question. When I say use that term, I mean guys and gals. That we need everybody in the engineering field. And we'll talk a little bit more about the upcoming job opportunities and whatnot. But that's for everybody. We need good people to continue on. So jumping into this, the overall, the next slide, engineers, we make a world of difference. And this was the old logo from ASCE, but it talks about traffic engineering, farming, agriculture, water, cell towers, the biomedical, all different types, nuclear, all different types of engineering. But we make a world difference. Our job is now to get out there and help progress the world. The two main things that have progressed modern society has been the aspect of clean water, i.e. good, clean, drinkable water. And then the second major item that has really made a difference in our world is sanitation. What do you do with the dirty water? Without those two things, clean water and dirty water, being able to take good care of them, we would not have the society of the world that we know as we live. And engineers are the ones that have developed those systems and really put them into good play. So, as engineers, we get to do a lot of fun, different things. So as a quick question, and I know you guys can answer, who saw the Mars rover, not Independence, Determination, land today? It landed about an hour, or a couple hours ago up on Mars.
Yeah, it was Perseverance.
Perseverance, that's it. And that thing was gorgeous. And, I always thought, man, what a fun job to be, at NASA and the Space Center and whatnot, to see it land, see your project, your capabilities, get it up off the Earth, travel all that distance to Mars, and then land it on Mars. That was just impressive to see. And that was truly a bunch of engineers putting that thing together. Because engineers, we think about it, and then we put it in under a plan, and then we build it. And that, my friends, is a lot of fun. And that's what engineers do. We do a world of difference.
Hey, Sam, I hate to interrupt, but
Yep.
there's a gray box that's showing up on screen.
Is that the chat box? Yeah.
I don't know if you, there, perfect.
Yep, that's it.
Keep going. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, on this slide, today's talk, we're going to talk about, resumes. We're going to talk about, your career and how you're going to get started in the career, how you're going to get the ball rolling. You all in college right now, that obviously is the first major step. But there's a lot of things you can be doing right now in college to get prepared to start out on your career. And life begins at the end of your comfort zone. And we're in the middle of this pandemic, and that's not been fun. But we'll get through it. Mankind is very ingenious and very smart. We'll get through it. But right now, you've got to get out of your comfort zone. Right now, you're deep into studies and whatnot, and you're hitting the books, doing the homework, etc. But you also got to get out of your comfort zone. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through the slides. But once you're out of your comfort zone and you're out there and you're seeing what else, the potentials that are out there, it's amazing what kind of doors can open up when you get out of your comfort zone. My youngest, she's a sophomore right now at UNLV, and with COVID and whatnot, everything's online, and it's hard to get outside, but there's different ways of doing that. She studies hard and she works hard, but she's in her room, 10, 12 hours a day, and it's hard to get out and see people. But I encourage her, as well as all of you, get outside that comfort zone and make your own world out there. Stretch those boundaries. Now, one of the ways to start doing that is volunteer. We need you. We need you as volunteers, in some of the student chapters, some of the organizations that go on. Something as simple as when you are back in the classroom, don't sit in the back of the room and just doze off and not pay attention. Move up to the front. Get to know your professors, volunteer for stuff that needs to be done. One of the key things one of my daughters talked about was being a teacher's assistant. And sometimes that's a paid position, sometimes that's not. But what a great way to get to know your professors and to look at some of their research and some of their assistance that they need in the classroom, et cetera. Get out there and volunteer. Sometimes you got to push that envelope a little bit and see who needs help. And like I said, sometimes it may be paid, sometimes it might not. But it's amazing when you volunteer your time for whatever that may be, what that can turn out to be, and things that can occur, that can happen that you may not even see or know. Now, when you're in school, and it's tough in these COVID times, but your friends call it, to me, I call it survival. You need friends when you're going to school. Some people call them study groups. That's sort of an old term, but nowadays some of the schools call them cohorts or classmates, whatnot. But you need, and this is my personal opinion. To me, it was always easier to work with a group, especially when you're trying to do your physics or your differential equations or whatever it may be. Your math skills. Work in groups. Don't be shy. Get out of your comfort zone. Develop those work groups, those study groups. Develop some friends and start to get to know people. And it's amazing what you can do. The power of one versus the power of six. It's amazing when you've got a bunch of people working together, what you can do. And engineers, people always think of us as nerds and everything else, and that we're introverts and shy and all that. And for the most part, that's fairly true. You got to break out of that cycle. Now, this last year or so, Tom Hanks developed that "Won't You Be My Neighbor" movie about Mr. Rogers, and and it was a great show. And when I was growing up, Mr. Rogers was a big TV show. But when you talk about "Won't You Be My Neighbor," the next bullet item says +1. So your homework right now would be, in the next few days or weeks, and I know it's tough when you're online, but all of you need to develop at least one friend per class. Get to know one person in your classroom and get to know them well. Become a friend with them. One, to help you study and do whatever, but also help you get you through the program. But it is amazing what I've seen here in the last several years. Some of the students that I've helped mentor and work with, and some of my interns that I've hired, it's amazing how they said, "How did you know about us? How did you know to call me? Or how did you know to about this intern coming up or whatnot?" And they said, "It was one of my classmates. One of my classmates was already working there and knew about it coming up, said, 'Hey, you need to get in touch with this, or you need to stay in contact.'" Or we were sitting in a classroom and whatnot, and I sat next to a person, and they were saying, we were just chit-chatting, and they were saying, "Hey, where do you work at?" "Well, I work at Kimberly Horn." "Oh, yeah? Ah, that's a great place. And Jody Walker works over there." And, "Oh, yeah, I know Jody, and she's my boss, da-da-da." And they were saying, "Hey, they got an internship coming up." And so she applied, and she was accepted. And that's because they were friends. And I use that word loosely, but they knew each other. You, as engineers, I don't care who you are or how introverted you are, you still need to develop those friends. Because eventually, in the long run, they'll become engineers, and you'll be working together on different projects. You may not be in the same firm, but you'll be working together at different projects. We used to call it, and I worked many years on the private side versus the public side, but on the private side of the house, one of the things as engineers you have to be able to do is sell your work, market your work. And you don't have to be a hardcore cold salesman, no, but you got to be able to get out there and express show your work and talk to your clients. But we called it zipper marketing. And when you think of it, when you start out young and you're in school, you develop those friendships, and then you start in your professional careers, and you start building. You become a staff engineer, then you become a project engineer, then you become a senior engineer, and all of a sudden you've been in the firm for 5 years, 10 years, whatever. And you've developed these contacts, and they all come together, sort of like a zipper, just zipping up. That zipper marketing, it's not cold calling, and it's not used car salesman type marketing. No, it's Sam calling up, Mary at the other firm. "Hey, I understand you got a new job coming up, new project. hey, we'll be glad to work with you. And say, yep, Sam, I know you guys. I know the work you do good work. Let's do it. That's the kind of friendships and the professional relationships that you need to be. And that's critical for success. So your homework right now is that +1. At least develop one good friend, in every class that you take every semester. And it's amazing how that'll steamroll. But find some study groups, get into those things. Now, I was trying to come up with something not funny, but Unlv's most wanted. Okay, but by a show of hands, and you can't raise your hands, but by a show of hands, who knows Sajid? Yep, Sajid Ahmed, he is the chair of the Civil and Environmental Department. How many people know the chair of their department? Well, the last intern I hired was a TA for Sajid, and Sajid called me up and said, Sam, I got a great person, and you need to hire him as an intern. I said, will do. Done. And it's just that simple. At times, it's almost that simple. But you need to know your chair, and this happens to be for civil and environmental, great person. And the chair knows a lot of folks that are in and around the community and whatnot. Now, take that, multiply it by 10, and now you got Rama Venkat. He's the dean of the College of Engineering. I'm not sure, out of a show of hands, how many of y'all have actually met the dean. Now, I know Rama is very personally, he gets out there a lot, so I'm hoping that many of you have met the dean. But I talk with Rama, not weekly, but probably monthly, and we stay in contact. And when he has questions, he calls me, and vice versa. But we have a good relationship. And if Rama calls me up and said, hey, we got a handful of folks looking for internships, if I've got something open, I'll say, hey, send the resumes over, and I'll be glad to chat with them. Or I may know of other firms that are looking for interns at that time. And so I can refer them back and say, Rama, please have them call, Dora Mead over at the Water District. In fact, Dora's going to be your next speaker here in a few weeks. Call Dora and see what she's got going on. So, I mean, those kind of relationships you as a student need to develop. Now, you're not going to go sit in their office and have lunch every day with them. No, but you need, when it's appropriate. I know Rama and Sadiq get out there a lot, and when you see them in the hallways or whatnot, track them down, shake their hands, introduce yourself, say hello, or when they have meet the dean or meet the professor's hours, go to those things, volunteer to help, go see them. But it's amazing what you can start to develop those professional relationships, how that will help in the long run. Now, I'm assuming, Marion, everybody on board that's on this call today has a handshake account.
Ooh, that's a really good question. Who has a handshake account right now?
I have
Say
one
yes,
right
no. Yeah, go ahead and unmute. Who does?
now. I do.
Eber, am I saying your name right?
It's Eber, yeah.
Eber, awesome. What's your major, Eber?
Mechanical engineering.
Yep.
When did you create your handshake account?
This was probably closer to last semester, so it's been maybe 4 or 5 months now.
Very good. And what do you think of it so far?
It's actually pretty good, because before I think you guys had, instead was just a website.
We had our engineering job board. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
We had our own homegrown CS students built our own engineering job board. Yeah. And so this is the reason we finally got the campus, and I'll just quickly say the same, and then I'm going to throw it back to you. We had so many different colleges using so many different career services portals. We finally got the whole campus to move toward one portal campus-wide, and that's Handshake. So the entire university is now on one career services platform. And the reason we went with this one, it was designed by a couple of Michigan State computer science students who hated their prior one, and they built a better mousetrap, and it's now the #1 career services portal or platform in the United States. And what's great about it is not only are our local employers on it looking for you and,
yes,
and asking you to upload your resumes, and they can collect your resumes within this portal, any other university that's on Handshake is also posting jobs and looking for you and has access to you, and vice versa. So it just exponentially exploded your ability to find internships and jobs. So when students say, I'm having a tough time finding an internship and job, I'm saying back to them, you don't know how to search. You're not searching properly. You've got to go back and train yourself on how to search, because there are literally thousands of these positions in this portal. So that's all I'm going to say. Thanks.
Yes. And homework assignment 1, make a friend. Homework assignment number 2, get a handshake account. You need that account. I spent some time on there in the last couple of days, in the career services webpage and whatnot. It is impressive, Mary. That thing is well done, and it's amazing the information that you can pull and mine off of that thing. But in particular, the internships, the old system, I remember 2 or 3 pages of internships, and that ebbs and flows as the economy goes up and down. But the data that you can pull off these pages, spend some quality time on there. It's well worth your efforts. And again, you're building your career, not looking for a job. The get active. You need to volunteer. You need to get active. The student chapters, and again, I was on the UNLV website, as far as for the overall listed student chapters, and there is a ton of student chapters within the UNLV organization at the college. But within the College of Engineering, there is multiple ones out there. I'm very familiar with many of them, in particular the ASCE, American Society of Civil Engineers, SWE, the Society of Women Engineers, ACI, the American Concrete Institute out of the Las Vegas chapter, Engineers Without Borders. You look at some of these pictures on here, that's the concrete canoe. And I'm not sure, I would hope, especially if you're on the civil side of the house, that you participated in the concrete canoe. But you don't have to be a civil, you can be mechanical, whatever, to volunteer and help out on the concrete canoe. It is a lot of fun. These are competitions that are held nationwide amongst all the schools to build concrete canoes. Yes, concrete does float if you do it right. The steel bridge, the red and blue bridge down below here, the steel bridge competition, that's a lot of fun. You build a bridge, on a small scale, but you build the bridge and you see how much load it can take and how far you can span. But it is a great competition. And again, you get to travel, which is the nice part, go to other areas. I judged the concrete canoe competition one time over at San Luis Obispo, there on the coast. Man, that was a hoot. Just having fun internal. The student chapters do a lot of different get-togethers and whatnot, pizza nights, study halls, etc. Get involved with the student chapters. The mechanical guys, there's several mechanical student chapters that are over there. The electrical folks, I'm aware of several of them over there. Construction management, there's several active chapters. The student chapters are the student chapters of the professional societies, the nationwide professional societies. When you're involved as a student, you get to know the students, but you also bring in professionals to come in, give lectures, or go visit their offices or whatnot. And that is another great way of meeting professional engineers that will be looking for folks to give on jobs. But you've got to get active. Get out of your comfort zone and join one of the student chapters. Does anybody know these two guys? I don't, but I know that they're the last year's fall's 2020 grand prize winner. And
Mechanicals. Scott Eisler on the left. I'm not sure who that is on the right, but I know Scott's an EED mechanical. He's getting a master's in mechanical right now. Yeah.
Outstanding. I read their paper, talking about a microwave system for the COVID-19 disinfection of masks. I thought that was just fascinating. What a simple, not simple, but what a beautiful idea coming up, for disinfection. And something that we can all use and put together. And what a great program. But that UNLV senior design competition, in the last 6, 7, 8 years, I've met many of the folks in the competitions and whatnot. And don't get me wrong, you don't have to win the competition. No, part of the fun is putting together a team and putting together a program and doing the projects. But you do get to meet a lot of outside professionals that come in and judge and go to the dinners and whatnot. It's just a lot of fun work. But if you're looking for a resume builder, these two guys, they can put on their resume, hey, I was a UNLV senior design champ in 2020. And that immediately, when I'm looking at a resume, that immediately pops up in my eyes and say, wow, that's pretty sharp. But even if you don't win the grand prize, you talk about your senior design project, what you did. Be proud of it. That's a great way on your resumes to really start standing out. You know, we talked a lot about student organizations, advisory boards, and professional societies. You know, the student organizations, get out of your comfort zones, join one or two, one for sure, but be active in it. Just because you join and you get a newsletter or whatnot, that's one thing. Be active in it. Go to the meetings, volunteer, get on some of the committees, get on some of get on the executive boards for it. But participate, get out of that comfort zone and have some fun. Now, the UNLV advisory boards, let's go back to Sajid Ahmad. He was, the chair for civil and environmental. You know, I've sat on that advisory board for many years, and then also with Ron Venkat on the College of Engineering advisory board. Yes, each department has an advisory board. That's industry. That's people. Those are professionals helping out the local school in their known environment, be that electrical, mechanical, aerospace, civil, geological, whatever. You know, we sit on the appropriate boards and we help the school out because we want to. We're alums or we're proactive, to do that. You need to know your advisory boards because immediately there's probably at least 10, probably 20 people on each of the advisory boards. And those are 20 potential employers. You know, that if you get to know them, or even if you know who they are in an email form, at least you start having contacts. One, they love UNLV because they're sitting on the advisory boards, donating their time and energy because they want to see the university and the students succeed. Contact the advisory board members. Go in front of the advisory boards. Get your student chapter for Society of Women Engineers. Go give a 5-minute, 10-minute presentation to the advisory board. Tell them what you're up to. That is a great way to meet industry professionals. Now, the actual here in Las Vegas, the professional societies, like we've named before, Asst, the mining engineers, the mechanical engineers. There are multiple professional societies within Las Vegas. And almost all of those professional societies are some form of a national organization. I'm thinking of ASCE, American Society of Civil Engineers. The local chapter is part in ASCE, last I looked, was like 160,000, almost 200,000 members throughout the nation. And if you're in civil engineering, that's a good organization to belong to. But they also have local monthly luncheons and meetings. They have guest presenters, and they love to have students come in. But grab your plus one, or grab 6 or 7. Call the local societies and say, hey, we'd like to attend as students your next monthly luncheon. I bet you now, again, with COVID, you got to worry about, we'll get through that. But when they start having them, I know everybody's going virtual, but tell them, hey, we'd like to come to the next luncheon. I'd bet you $1. Most of them will get you in for free and give you a free lunch and give you a talk. But you want to go to these and participate and meet people. Don't just sit there on your thumbs. Get out, shake hands, say hi. I'm Sam. I'm from UNLV. I'm a junior in mechanical engineering or whatever. And I'd like to meet you and see what you got going on. What projects are you working on? Do you guys have internships, et cetera? And that takes a lot to get out of that comfort zone and go to these things. You walk into a large room like this one and you say, oh man, there's a couple hundred people in here. Well, break it down. Go to one table, sit at that table, or get your friend, your plus one, and go sit at a table. Don't sit next to each other, sit across from each other, but strike up a conversation and see who's there and let them know that you're a student looking. That's critical. Now, for some of you that are not quite that extroverted, blog, post, and I'm not used to a lot of these terminologies. I didn't know there was a vlog. I was talking to the daughters yesterday, on the video logs. Hey, whatever. Get your name out there. And if you like to write, or if you like to do videos, or if you like to blog it, post it, socialize, whatever, in a professional manner, get out there and one way or the other, get your name out there, get what you're doing, some of the research or some of the follows that you're doing, or put question marks out there. Find a way to get involved in your career. On the civil side of the house, I'm not aware of very many people that have a blog out there in civil engineering. What's new in the Valley? What's new projects are coming out? What's new research that you see? You're coming from the university. Get out there and talk about new university. Talk about the microwave, for the disinfectant for the COVID mask. But somehow or another, start, think outside the box a little bit and find your style. Get your points out there. Stay current. Most people think, hey, I graduated from school, that's it, I'm done. You need to stay current. It's your career. It's not just a job. It's your career. Stay current. I can guarantee you what I learned in school, many years ago versus now, it's changed dramatically. You need to follow the research. Make sure you know what's going on around you. It's your career. Stay current on it. Read the journals. The professional journals that come out. ASCE's got a great monthly magazine. It's got a handful of major articles that come out and talk about everything going on. So read the journals. Stay in touch. And it's amazing, with the media nowadays. It's amazing how one story links to another, links to another, links to another, and all of a sudden you figure out, oh man, I just spent 3 hours on social media reading these things. But find stuff that interests you that's in your career path and read on it. Don't just read it and forget it. Read on it, think about it, work your blog or put comments in there and try and strike up a professional conversation, and get things going out there. Know your tools, AutoCAD. Some of these things are very straightforward. Civil 3D, BIM, finite element, GIS. GIS, more than anything else, in this world, it is amazing what GIS is being able to do to link data together. I'm not an expert in it, but we've got some folks that are. Bluebeam, something as simple as Bluebeam to be able to open your plans up and look at and do your plan reviews, etc. Something simple as Zoom and WebEx. Know your tools. Zoom, right now, everybody's so popular with Zoom or WebEx or Google or whatever it may be. They don't care. But the point is, you get out there and you know what's popular in your organizations and in your profession. Microsoft Office. That by itself is self-explanatory, but you got to be good in your tools. Excel spreadsheets, Word documents, just being able to manipulate things, getting your concept out of your head down on the paper. You got to be able to do that well. PowerPoint, Visio, however you want to present your data, your presentations, whatnot. You got to be able to talk and get that data out there. You may have the best idea in the world, but if you can't sell it, if you can't market it, if you can't explain it, it may never come to fruition. So you got to push on that. But also, never be afraid to ask for help. No one's an expert in everything, not at all. Some people are specialists, some people are journalists. Never be afraid to ask for help. Now, if you don't ask for help and you mess something up, that's when it gets tough. Don't be afraid to ask. Ask for help and learn from that. It's a fun way of learning. Okay, here we go. Jeopardy. Okay, I love Jeopardy, and Alex Trebek. God bless him. But in the mortal words of Alex Trebek, what's the most fun way to boost your resume, your CV, your curriculum vitae? Yeah, I wish I could play the music. If I were smart enough, I'd put the music in there. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, one of the most fun ways to boost your resume, study abroad. Now, Unlv's got a great program. This is my daughter in the middle. My daughter, I would have never have guessed would have ever gone overseas, let alone out of the state, to experience life and whatnot. But one of her professors, when she was at Unlv, told him to go up to Northwestern and said, hey, you need to broaden your horizons, open up on your resume what's going on, and study abroad was one of the best things they looked at. She signed up with Unlv for the study abroad program. She went to San Sebastian, Spain, and that's sort of a picture of the harbor right there. If you ever want to learn how to surf, that is a great place to learn how to surf. But some of the best food, and we went over there after she was done and picked her up, some of the best seafood I've ever had. But study abroad, man, what a great way. You get to meet new people, These three girls in the middle were from UNLV. The two girls on the outside, they were from UNR, just by chance. And what a great way to meet people. And now they have friends. And these five girls have stayed in contact. And this has been, 5, 6 years ago. Stayed in contact. And so now you just broaden your horizons and you got good friends elsewhere. Study abroad is a great program. It's your career. You have to take the time to plan your career. You know, a lot of times I'll go on trips. I'm half geologist, and I love just going out and exploring new places. A lot of times I'll just head south. You know, but for the most part, you've got to map it out. You got to have a good feel for where you're going. But that takes time. And every year you need to take some time, spend some quiet time, and think about where you're at in your career. Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? And that only you can do that. You've got to start planning about it. You're in school right now and you're hustling to get through college, et cetera, through your classes. But you need to plan your career and take the time to do that. And one of the best ways I know to do that, find a mentor. You know, the mentors, these are folks, hopefully, that have been around for a while. You know, they're a good coach. You know, they know how to motivate. They know how to help you set goals. You know, they've been through, a lot of the quagmire a lot, and you need to find a good mentor. Now, let's go back to handshake. And man, I wish I could see a raise of hands. How many of you all signed up for the mentoring program that was put on 6 months or so ago? It just terminated, it just finished up at the end of the semester, and now we're into the new semester, we've got the new program going. Shame on you if you didn't have a handshake account. Shame on you if you didn't sign up for that mentoring program. Because they teamed me up with two students, both UNLV. One was civil environmental, one was mechanical. And they teamed me up with two students, and we had a great time. And two students I've never met before, but afterwards, hey, I hope I was a good resource for them. And I hope they got, the knowledge or was worthwhile for their time too. But we met and I introduced them to several different industry folks, whatnot, and tried to help guide them and show them a way. But you need to find a good mentor to help you sort of navigate life and your career. That may be, it may be, from the advisory center. It could be one of your professors. When you get into the actual real world and the business, find one of the senior folks there that you can relate to and work a mentorship deal with them. That is a great way of moving ahead. Now, who remembers these two guys? Owen Wilson, Vince Vaughn, in the movie The Internship. They were good salesmen, but they got an internship at Google, and a great movie. If you haven't seen it, watch it. But internships are a great way for you as a student to get out there and experience real life. Not every firm offers an internship, and as the economy is up and down, things get tough in regards to the numbers of internships. But they're still there. I don't care, in the middle of the worst downturn, they're still there. Whether or not they pay you or not, I don't care. Now, obviously at times you have to work to get paid so you can help buy your books and pay your tuition. I understand that completely. But when you have the opportunity to do an internship, paid or unpaid, do it. Even if it's just an hour or two a week or a month or whatever, get out there, get to know the firms and see what's going on. This is a great way to use your friends within the university, within their classmates, saying, hey, what are you doing for an internship? Well, I'm over at Hayward Baker, doing work over here, or I'm over at McCarran Airport, or I'm over at the Water Reclamation, or I'm downtown at the Cosmo, or I'm working for CA. It's amazing the student contact interaction that goes on, let alone your professors, and let alone the student chapters, let alone the professional chapters. Get out there and meet some contacts. But the internships, don't give up. Like Mary was saying, go under the handshake. There's a ton of internships programs listed there. That's when you take a look at them, see what interests you, see what looks good for your career, for your, what you're interested in, be that mechanical, electrical, whatever it may be. That's when it's nice to be able to contact your professor or your chair or your dean or your mentor and say, hey, do you know anybody here? And young lady I was mentoring this go around, there was an opportunity at Kimberly Horn. He says, "Oh, I know Jody Walker. Jody's one of the senior folks over there." And so we got together on a Zoom call and made the introductions, et cetera, et cetera. And you make those contacts. It's amazing how that works. And it could just be one or two quick calls, and all of a sudden you're talking to somebody. You're not just sitting in a blank, 8.5 by 11 piece of paper called a resume and shipping it in there unannounced into somebody, putting it in the pile and saying, "Hey, I'd like to do an internship with you." You need to have, ideally, you need to have those personal contacts so that you're shipping your resume personally, to Bob, Mary, or Steve that and that they will receive it and take good care of it and help shepherd it through the system. But that's critical. Now, on the public side of the house, our processes are very formal. You have to go through our human resources department, and since it's government, there's a lot of steps you got to go through. That's okay. You go through those steps and you apply and you keep applying and you keep applying until you pop up an internship. It's amazing how those things can come around. Now, we talked a lot, coming up, how are you going to build? How are you going to enjoy your career? How are you going to build your career? How are you going to plan your career? One of the other things, and this is also we can help drive and help build our resume so we can get that resume out there and get our foot in the door for our first job, et cetera. One of the things I look at when I look at resumes is extracurricular activities. When I was in school, believe it or not, I took scuba diving up out of Lake Tahoe in the middle of winter, which was nuts. But I love scuba diving. And, my youngest, she's getting into the environmental program, and she loves the marine life, et cetera. And so she learned how to scuba dive. But it could be drones. You look at all the drone works that are going on around here. You could join a drone club and just go out and have fun, and build rocket models or model rockets, et cetera, play with the drones, the remote controlled cars or planes, et cetera. You may like robotics. First Robotics, that comes around to all the high schools and the colleges. That is an impressive program on how you build robots, et cetera. And you compete and whatnot, and it's just fun. People laugh at me, but one of my daughters, her undergrad was in communications, and they went to speech and debate. They got deep into that. Man, you talk about a lot of fun. No, I'm an engineer, and I said there's no way speech and debate's going to be fun. But that was a fun extracurricular activity. I went to a lot of their debates, and it was just interesting the way they took something like that, picked the topic, and all of a sudden you had 3 minutes and you had to go talk. I mean, what a great way to learn how to talk and write, et cetera. Unlv CSUN. I hope you guys know CSUN is the government, is the student government there on campus. Get involved with student government. Get elected or whatever, and go help out the student government. See what's going on. Stay active. Get outside of your comfort zone and get out there. I guarantee in this world, 70–80% never get out of their comfort zone. They just step by step by step by step. But that 10–20–30% that do get out of their comfort zone, they have a lot of fun. Get out there and have some fun. This up here is a classroom up in Guatemala. This is Engineers Without Border. And there's a student chapter of Engineers Without Borders, and I've talked to them quite a bit. They've done a lot of water wells, a lot of toilet facilities, small one-room schools down in South America, and it's a great program. And they get a lot of donations. So I mean, the trips and the travels, they get sponsored. But Engineers Without Borders, I mean, to be able to build a small, simple structure like that for somebody, put in a real simple water well, or a clean toilet or whatnot, man, that makes a world difference in that small town or village, what it may be. Habitat for Humanity, they're building houses left and right. Volunteer for Habitat. Go out there. Every so often they'll have a house they're going to build for a veteran or low income, whatever it may be. Don't care. Go out and volunteer. Have fun. If you're going to get into the house building business, or you want to learn how to build or put things together, that's a great way of doing it. The Southern Nevada Home Builders Association, they represent all the major home builders here in town. They take a home every year and they build it. And man, you can spend time with those folks and learn a ton of work on there. But extracurricular activities, I don't care if you like dance or music or whatever it may be, get out there and do something for fun, and also help your career with it. That's a good thing. So we've talked a lot about, building up, to your resume, and this is sort of a busy slide, but your resume, your resume is your chance to get the foot in the door. Now, your resume to me, and believe me, I've looked at hundreds, if not thousands of resumes in my lifetime. To me, and I'm being sort of facetious here, but it's sort of mean. It's an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper that has a bunch of words on it. Okay. Now, that said, I still got to go through that process. That's the way we've always done it in resumes. And when I was on the private side of the house, and I was looking at tons of resumes, looking for inspectors or engineers, whatever. We talk about 60 seconds plus or minus. And I'm being mean, but I had a stack of resumes. I'd pull one up, and I'd have to gear myself up to do this. But I'd pull them up, and I'd look at the first one, and I'd skim it, I'd read a few things, whatnot. No, and I'd probably not, and I'd stick it in this pile. And I'd pull the next one, and I'd look at it and say, that interesting. Oh wait, they remember an ASC student chapter goes in that pile. And certain things in my mind, and this is just the way I did it, certain things in my mind clued in, and I said, yep, I like that. Extracurricular activities, student chapters, etc. And I put them in a different pile that I would spend a little bit more time with. But it's not 60 seconds. Okay, call it 2 minutes. A minute or two on your resume. That's not a lot of time. You better get to the point. It needs to be strong and inviting. But don't include too much information. Don't be too verbose, because I'm not going to read every single word. But you got to make it strong. You got to get the key points in there. Tailor it to the position. If you're going in there and you want an internship, I understand that. And I understand you're a student. You probably don't have a lot of experience with that. But tell me what you've done. Show me why you? Why should I choose you? Well, I'm going into Bigelow Aerospace down on Maryland Parkway. And, they're talking about, building the inflatable capsules, to live on Mars and the moon and whatnot. Well, you know what? During my lifetime, I enjoyed model rocketry. I played around a lot with those, remote control cars, etc. I enjoyed space, astronomy, and I just wanted to go work for your firm. And, it's amazing, why should I select you to come represent me in my business? My business is important to me. It's my life. I enjoy it. I want to hire somebody that has the same passion or whatnot for it. Don't be boring in your resume. Again, you got 60 seconds or whatnot, and I've seen a ton of it. It's blah, 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 I went to school and, I got good grades, whatever. No, you got to get strong and inviting. But whatever you do, don't lie on your resume. But, be truthful. Some people extend or stretch the facts a little bit. Don't lie. Just be upfront. You are who you are. This is why, it's important to know individuals rather than just shipping off a resume to the HR department and say, hey, pick me out of 200 people because my resume looks good. You need to find who the hiring individual is. At Kimberly Horn, Jody Walker. So, no, I know Jody. Let me make a phone call over there and say, hey, Jody, do me a favor, take a good look at that resume because they're a good person and da da da. And all of a sudden, you connect the dots and it works very well. But we always remember when you're looking for work, it's a two-way street. Not every job is going to fit you. You may want a internship. You may want a career profession, but not every firm is going to fit your cup of tea. You need to be as good a fit for the position as the position and the firm needs to be a good fit for you. Some people just don't see eye to eye. Nowadays people get very strong in the environmental side of the house. If that firm is not an environmental nature, then that might not be a good fit for you. It may be good technically, but their desires, their passion might not be in the same realm. It's always a two-way street. Evaluate the firm as much as they're going to evaluate you. The next couple of ones, and my girls have been busy putting their resumes together for grad school and for professional assignments. Make it, in their words, make it pretty, make it colorful. And on Etsy, they're saying, Dad, it says, Etsy has all different types of formats for resumes. Go find one that you like and make it work. And as an engineer, I'm a little bit careful about or cautious about too pretty or too colorful, but a little bit does help. It's like this slide. I'm not really not thrilled on the yellow and black, but I like the words and I like using colors and making something pop out. I don't know if you guys remember the movie Legally Blonde, but Elle Woods, she was the main character, Reese Witherspoon. When she sent her resume off to Harvard, she sent it on pink stationery and she had perfume on it. And she attached a video along with it. And, out of all the resumes they received that year for Harvard, hers was accepted because it was different. It was just unique. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen all the time and that's what you need to do. But it's amazing when you go back to make it strong and inviting, you got to get it, you got to have don't get me wrong, not a niche or whatnot, but you got to stay professional, but you also got to have a little bit of creativity to go with it. We talked about, relevant experience. I want to see if I'm hiring, if I want a 15-year engineer that's deep into, constructions of high rises, et cetera. There's relevant experience I'm going to be looking for. You as a new student coming in, you just graduated and whatnot, you're not going to have a lot of relevant experience. But if you go back and tell me, well, I built a couple of houses with Habitat for Humanity, or I volunteered at the local food bank, and I served meals up, every Saturday or whatnot. Or I was a member of the ASE student chapter or whatnot. I attended their meetings and whatnot. Hey, that's great. That's what's going to set you apart. Student organizations, no question. If you haven't done much on that end, and your resume looks pretty bland and pretty straightforward, you need to join these organizations and get active. Show your passion for what you want to get going into. When you don't see student organizations in there, again, don't get me wrong, some of you have to work and you got to work almost full time to pay the bills. I understand that. But I would put that on my resume too. Hey, I was busy working, support my family, support myself, et cetera. I understand that completely. That's called life, but you deal with it. Community work, what's your passions? What are you looking to get into? What are your goals in life? I mean, you got to, when you're talking to me as an employer, you got to know who I am and you got to know what you're trying to do. And is there alignment between what you're looking for and what I'm looking for? You got to do your research on the firm, and if that firm is not your cup of tea, it doesn't have the projects that you like to do, then that might not be a good fit for you. And that's probably going to play out in the interview too. If I'm sitting here talking about aerospace research and you're worried about rocks and minerals, that's probably not going to be a great fit. I'm using very extreme examples, but do your research. Don't waste my time. If you're going to send me your resume or you're going to come in for an interview, don't waste my time. Make sure you research me and my firm, and you know what you're getting into. So it can be a win-win. We talked about teachers' assistants. That's amazing. When I see somebody that's been a TA, that's important. I mean, those are heavyweights, that I give a lot of credit to. When you're doing your resume, have another engineer review it. Go to career services, have them review it. They'll do that for you, easy enough. Get another set of eyes on there. But if you're putting out for a technical position, have another engineer in that field look at your resume and see if it makes sense. Or is there a way to beef this up or enhance this or whatnot? But have somebody that knows your lingo go in there. I reviewed my daughter's resumes, and one of them is a therapist, psychotherapist. I don't know that business, but I can read it and make sure that it looks good and that it makes sense to me, but I don't know the lingo. Find somebody that does. And again, no typos. As soon as I look at it as a resume and I start seeing typos or poor English, I'm a fairly positive individual. I might slide on one, but if I see two, that's not going to work. Pay attention, and make sure that it's good. Go to career services and have them help you. Now, okay, so you got a resume, okay, top picture, the door's closed. No, you don't want the door closed. You want to open the door. You want to get your foot in the door in a firm so that you can there get an internship, or most importantly, when you graduate, you want to get out there and get a job. But you need to get in front of them. Your friends from school or whatnot may have inroads saying, hey, Lewis Berger and Company, they're looking for a civil engineer coming up for roadways. Getting that kind of information, at least you know who to target and who to go to. But you got to get in front of them. When you go to the student chapter meetings, or you go to the professional society meetings, or you go to advisory board meetings and whatnot, you're starting to get a feel for some of the folks that are out there. You're starting to develop a name. I've hired many a student because they came to me at the advisory board meetings, they did presentations, or I got to know them through the student chapter events and whatnot. And if I'm going to hire somebody, and I will, I have a need, I'm going to hire somebody, man, it's a lot easier when I know you. I know Mike and Mary. I don't know Bob and Jane, but I know these two. I'm going to give them a little bit more credit, when I'm reviewing the resumes. Business cards. When you're out at meetings and whatnot, or a student chapter, and all of a sudden, you run across somebody like me or a professional, share a business card with them. And if you don't have business cards, share your contact with them. Ask them for a business card and send them your contact info. Nowadays, you can share contacts, information so easily via the phone. It's just easier, but make sure you make that contact. Shake a hand, say hello, introduce yourself, but get their card or get their information however you can so that you can start developing your database. You want FaceTime. You want to be in front of them. If I'm going to hire somebody, again, if I at least recognize them, or at least have a first person contact or a second person contact, much better off rather than looking at an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. But when you can, and COVID is always a concern, but when you can, get to their business, drop off your resume in person, or even if you don't have an appointment, go in there, drop it off to the front desk and say, hey, I'd like to talk with your hiring manager. It's much better when you say, I'd like to talk to Bob Smith. He's your senior engineer, your office manager, whatnot. And I'd like to just spend 5 minutes with him just to say hello. I saw him at a student chapter meeting the other day, and I just wanted to drop off my resume, say hello. Can I please just see him for a few minutes, or call him on the phone and say, hey, just want to swing by for 5 minutes and drop this off. If it works, 5 minutes turns into 15 minutes, turns into 30 minutes, turns into a job offer, an internship offer. That's what you want. If they're busy, hey, that's fine. Ask for a convenient time. Hey, do you mind if I come back on Friday? Or when's a good time when I could come back and just see you? I just want to spend 5 minutes and see what you do, and I'd love to see your firm a little bit and see what you're doing in the lab or back in the office, whatever, what kind of products you're doing. But again, be prepared. When you're going into somebody's business, business is life. They're there to, it's their career, it's their passion, but they're also there to make money and pay their bills, etc. Be prepared. Don't waste their time, but listen to them. Listen to them, and in particular, ask them, hey, if by chance you don't have an internship right now, you know anybody else close by or whatever in the industry that may be looking? It's amazing. I'll help anybody if they ask me the right questions. Sometimes I pull it out of them. Sometimes they ask the right questions. I'll go off and give them a hand. But you got to listen to them and see what they're saying. And always remember, we need you. You are our next generation. Without you, I can't retire. And I want to retire. So I need you, and I need to bring you into my firm, get you trained up to where you can replace me down the pipe. This is an evolving evolution. It never stops. So I need new, bright, good, young people to come into my organization. Now, that said, you have to follow up. If I'm going to go spend time with, Bob Smith over at his firm, and you spend time with him, follow up with them, send them a follow-up email or a card, however you feel comfortable, but make contact with them, not once, maybe 2 or 3 times after you've met. Send them a follow-up email saying, hey, thanks for the time, really enjoyed it. Hey, what do you think about this? Or if you see a good article that you've read from your journals and it might be of interest to them, say, hey, Sam, here's a new article. I'm not sure if you've seen this one maybe, but this is the microwave for the COVID disinfection. you know, that this was our senior competition design winner. I thought this might be of interest to you. Open up those aisles of dialogue. Remember, this is called life. And in life, you as a student, you as a professional, you got to first off show up early, treat people with respect, and perform at the highest levels till the world's can't deny. I love this saying. But the key issue is show up early, stay late. When you show up late and you go home early, I guarantee you, you're going to miss a lot of what's going on. Most of the business that goes on is done when people are chit-chatting right before a meeting starts or whatnot, the first 15, 20 minutes before a meeting starts. And most of the business is done at the end of the meeting. People, you know, when the show's over, whatever's going on, and you're leaving and you're chit-chatting, hey, it's nice to meet you. You know, hey, what do you think? You know, and you can develop that rapport. But you got to show up early, you got to stay late. And that includes, you know, when you actually go to the business. You know, whatever you do, yeah, it's an 8 to 5. No, this is your profession. Show up a little bit early. Take care. Stay a little bit late. You know, take care of business. You got to take care of your family too, and yourself. And you got to have balance in your life. That's critical. But you also got to take care of your career. And when you're young, pay attention to take any and all opportunities. If you got to go to Indianapolis, you know, to go work on a job site out there, take that assignment. Take it, go learn. People know you're there as an intern, or know you're there as a staff engineer or whatnot, that you're outside your comfort zone. Take that time to really learn from them and know what's going on. And perform. Always give it your best shot. No one's perfect, and at times, you know, just like you all do when you're taking exams. Okay, a B plus might be as good as an A minus, but you know, you got to balance that out. But always try your best to give it your best effort. But critically, you got to stay in the moment. And what I mean by that, when you talk about staying in the moment, is if you're talking to somebody, stay with them. Focus on them and what they're saying. Listen to what they are doing. Be that your professor giving a lecture, be it watching a movie, talking to your spouse or kids, whatever. Stay in that moment. Give them that quality time. Talk to them, let them talk back to you, and listen to what they're saying and respond. Stay in that moment. Don't drift off and say, well, I'll get back here. Don't drift off, start looking at your phone and whatnot. You start worrying about other things. Focus on the task at hand and stay in it. And then also the attention to detail, you know, over here, cross the T's, dot the I's. It is amazing. It is amazing, that attention to detail. You know, when people talk about they proofread, they read a document backwards and they make sure that everything's there. It's amazing the details that you need to pay attention to. That's life. Enjoy it, get the best out of it. That's life. Watch those details. Now, hiring forecast, you know, as far as to the crystal ball, who knows? But you know what? I've been in this business for 30 some odd years, and there's always been work. Always been work. I don't care in the middle of a recession or the middle of the heydays, there's always work. When you do good work and you're well known, you're well networked, people know who you are, you do good work, you take care of business. And the way people understand when you take care of business is when you fail, when you have a mistake, you don't just say, oops, I made a mistake and shove it under the carpet. No. You take care of that and you fix it. And you say, hey, I missed this one, I screwed it up, I don't normally do that, but I'm gonna fix it, hang in there with me. I'll be done. I'll be right back to you tomorrow, and we'll get this thing patched up and keep it going. That's what people will remember. When you make mistakes, it's how you get through the bad times that really makes you a good engineer. Everybody can get through the good times. That's easy. But when you screw up or something happens, how you get through the bad times, that's what makes a difference. That's why I've never had to worry. I've never worried about having a job because or a career, excuse me. You know, I always knew that I did good work, I did the best I could, and I took care of business, I took care of the errors, I took care of my customers, and I never worried about a job because I knew that if something was to happen, I could go talk to some folks and I could go out there and find jobs. Now, in the hiring forecast coming out the pike, you know, we're hopefully sort of, I'm an optimist, but we're sort of on the mend, you know, on this COVID deal and whatnot. right, wrong, or different, COVID's very real. I've seen multiple people pass away, get highly infected, asymptomatic. I've seen multiple different folks. COVID's real. We got to get through that. We got to get the shots in our arms and move on. That said, we are in a mid. We need to get this economy going again, and it will. You got to remember during recessions or depressions, however you want to say that, or middle of COVID, whatever, when the money is sitting on the sidelines, the big money, when it's sitting on the sidelines, you put it in a bank and invest it. It's not making a very good return. Where most people make very good returns, it is investing it in new production, new products, new buildings, new airports, new runways. That's where they make great return on their money. In the economy, people want to invest. They want to build things. That's what keeps the program working very well, and that's why I'm very, very optimistic on the future. Right now, this is the early part of 2021. By summertime of 21, by the end of 21, assuming no major catastrophe from COVID, and I don't think we will. I think we're coming out of that. The hiring market, I think, will be pretty solid. It's going to get better as we get towards the end of 21 and 2022. No question, I think is going to be very good for you all in particular coming out of students. There's going to be a lot of pent up demand. I'm so sick and tired of staying home. Don't get me wrong. I love my family. I love my wife, but I've been hunkered down for the last year. I'm ready to go travel. I want to go places. That's what Vegas is betting on. The convention center is right now, from last I've heard, it's pretty well booked solid from about July on. And that's what I like hearing. I like hearing that the convention's talking about coming back in. The brand new Raiders Stadium, they've already got games scheduled. I've already got my Unlv tickets out there for football. Hopefully, with COVID being settled down, we'll get people back in the seats and start opening these doors back up and get our economy going. I look at some of the major projects coming down the line. Elon Musk, the Boring Company, they're just finishing up the tunnels right there below the Las Vegas Convention Authority, the new convention center. They want to build a mega transport center under. If that comes to fruitality or reality, that's going to generate a lot of work. The Drew, which is the old Fontainebleau, that's one of the biggest building structures downtown. It's vacant right now. It just got sold again. They're going to turn that around and open that thing back up. And that's going to generate probably a couple of billions of dollars of retrofit work, et cetera. Those are major projects. The airport just had a quick update this morning that I saw. The Ivanpah Airport out by State Line between Nevada, California. That thing is still in progress and it's underway. In about 6-7 years from now, you'll probably start seeing shovels in the ground and start seeing that airport develop. People want to come to Nevada. Our cost of living is low. The housing market, call it what it may, in the middle of the COVID recession, our housing market is through the roof right now. We can't build houses fast enough to keep people wanting to move to Vegas and locals try to buy new houses. That's good work. The commercial centers right now, my office is right here at 215 in Decatur, 215 in Russell. And the big boxes, the 300, 400, 500,000 square foot tilt-up warehouses in and around this area, around the I-15, 215 interchange, those things are just being designed and built as fast as we can because transportation, people want to have distributions. They want to be able to drop materials off here and then pick it up and transport either into California or from California back into here. They need those big box warehouses to keep them going. Right now, the water district, we're trying to get water out to all these new developments. We're going to have to build new pipelines, new reservoirs, new roadways to get out there. As the suburbs spread out farther and farther, we got to build new roadways. That means we got to build new shopping centers, new grocery stores, farther and farther away from the center of town. As the center of town gets older, you'll start. We already are seeing, the revitalization of downtown. People want to go have fun, game, etc. So we got to have new projects downtown. There's a lot of good projects on the books that are coming our way. Even through the middle of COVID, our staff here at the county, we've seen some bumps and whatnot and some downturns, small. But right now, we're starting to see the trend line heading up and going in the right direction. And that's encouraging me, and it should be encouraging you as students. Again, this year, next year, 1 year, 2 years out, your job market, I think, is going to look very good. Again, you need to start building your relationships, so you start setting and planting the seeds, so you start finding a good firm to get out there and get to work with. Find a good mentor that knows the electrical engineering firms in town, who's hiring, who's not hiring, who likes interns, who likes Unlv grads, etc. Start getting a feel for that. That's the way you start getting a good job. So, I mean, as far as for the forecast, no, I think it looks very good. I think, coming out of this, out of the COVID stuff, by summertime, by fall for sure, people are going to be wanting to come to Vegas as tourists, and every tourist drives jobs. And that's a good thing. So I look forward to that. Now, Jeopardy, Daily Double, okay? Alex Trebek, you as students, what financial instruments should you be investing in right now? And this is my dad and me talking to you all as young folk coming out. Be that you go in the private world or the public world, most nowadays, you need to be investing, and this is just advice, you can take it or leave it, but 401ks. When you graduate, I don't care if you're 19 or 21 or 36, whatever, it doesn't matter. You need to be planning for your future, your financial retirement. Part of the best way to do that is invest in your 401k. You're an engineer, you're smart, you're logical, and start work with a financial planner, work with your parents or whomever, your mentor, whatever. But from day one of your professional career life, you need to be planning for your retirement. Yeah, on the public side of the house, you may have some retirement plans that pay you when you retire, but those are going away. Nowadays, pretty much you got to save for yourself for the long term for the retirement. So invest in your 401k. That's just personal advice. Take it or leave it, but it's important. Now, what you take out, remember to give back. And me as an alumni, as an alum of UNLV, I love UNLV. It's a great school. Give back. What you take out, i.e. your education and whatnot, you got to remember to give that back. 5 years from now, when you all are out in the real world, or 10 years, whatever, go back. Make sure you stay in contact with the university and offer your skill set. To come talk to the to the new students, the new group, and encourage them and keep them going. But also as a business person, as an engineer, an architect, whatever you may be, when you're working in the Las Vegas community, what you take out of the community, i.e. your projects, your jobs, etc., and you're getting paid for that, and you're building your retirement, all that. Remember to give back. Don't just take. You need to give back and give back to your community. I think those are very critical for you all to remember. If you take, then that's what you'll be known for, and that's not good. Remember, you got to keep calm and you got to engineer on. The old adage, the ships were made to go out in stormy waters, and ships that go through the storms, etc. You become better people, better captains, etc. Yep, that's true. In the middle of this COVID disaster and whatnot, you keep calm and you just keep plugging away. As students, you focus on your studies, you focus on developing your resume, and you focus on getting through your career and setting your sights forward. So, with that said, okay, I've been talking for a while now. Are there any brave and interesting questions out there? Don't waste my time. I'm being facetious. But when you're talking with somebody, you're talking to an engineer, an architect, or a potential, business, whatnot, ask good questions. Be brave. Ask interesting questions. Everybody can say, hey, what's the pay scale, whatever else. Don't bore me like that. Ask me interesting questions. Why did I get into this business? What do I like about it? And me as a young person, what should I be looking for? Why should I join your firm as much as you want me to, why should I choose you? Flip it around. Why should I choose your business? But ask those brave and interesting questions. But if you do have any questions, let's pop that open and I can answer it as best I can, and we'll go from there.
I actually do have a question. I'm mainly curious. So, what do you like for you? What does a normal day look like for you, say, at your engineering firm, or when you're working? You know?
Well, I try hard to get here early and stay a little bit late. Actually, I come in a little bit early. I've always gotten up early. I've always dealt with construction. In construction, you get up at the crack of dawn and you get to work. But, on a daily basis, I spend, in the county, we just rotated the 9.5 hour days, 4 days a week, which is a pretty nice schedule, Monday through Thursday. But, my average day, I probably spend, 20% of the time on the phone answering questions. I probably spend another 30% of the time up in the front public lobby talking to customers, trying to help them through the process, look at some of the technical questions they have, or look at some of the logistical questions. How do I get my permit? How to get the plans checked? My inspector said this was wrong and I need to fix it, but I'm not sure how to deal with it. So I spend a lot of time dealing with customers. And probably 10, 15% of the time I spend with the staff. I love going out to the job sites. I spend a heck of a lot of time out on the Raider Stadium, going out there, walking that from top to bottom, left to right, watching these mega projects, come out of the ground. So I try my best to get out there and see what's going on in the projects. One, you get to spend time with the staff to see what's real, what's happening, what are some of the issues they're facing with. And two, you get to see the real life questions. We've got a problem. This ground over here on the stadium was getting soft. We're trying to figure out a way to beef up and reinforce those soils. They came up with a pin pile design, but you get to see it. You can see what's out there. That's why I enjoy engineering. It's not just all office work. I also get to get out in the field. It's just fun. And then when I come back in the office, later in the day, I'm responding to phone calls and emails. I try my best to respond back the same day to all my emails and phone calls. That's a challenge. But I don't like it when our customers, their time is their money and they're waiting on answers from us to keep their projects rolling. And if I feel bad when I can't get back in touch with somebody the same day, to keep that project rolling along, at least give them, the response that they need to help move them on to the next step. But that's where I spend a lot of my time, a lot of my day. Each day is different. That's what I also like about engineering. You see a lot of different jobs. It's very diverse and a lot of fun.
Sam, I'm going to read one from Allison. She's asking, when looking toward the future as far as building codes go, do you think parking garage permits / buildings with street or curbside parking will have to change to address increased usage of AV vehicles?
Oh yeah, autonomous driven vehicles. Oh man, that's going to be interesting. And I look forward to it. I grew up on a stick shift and then automatic and then blah. At the end of the day, when I see the Activa and the cars driving down the road that are autonomous, holy smokes! Teaching my daughter how to drive. You're doing 60 miles an hour down the roadway with a 2-ton piece of steel. That's white knuckled enough. But to see cars without a driver in them, oh yeah. But that's going to be fun too. That's challenges for you all to figure out. Parking spaces, below ground, above ground. Over at Venetian, we went 7 stories underground for parking just because of the physical space. There wasn't enough space here. Parking and access is going to be critical. Let me flip that question around. Look at terrorism. Terrorism is a bad word. Don't get me wrong. We don't want terrorism. But think of it like an engineer. It's a challenge. It's a design issue. We've got bad people out there that want to blow things up or destroy things and whatnot. How can I, as an engineer, help resolve those issues? How can I make it tougher to do that? That's something you all will face more in your lifetime, in your design careers than I ever did. But think of it as a challenge, not as a downer. Think of it as a challenge. How can I better design my projects, still maintain my costs, but how can I better design my projects so they're not an attractive target, et cetera, et cetera. I deal a lot with federal people, that come in and evaluate structures, public structures, and say, that's a beautiful looking structure, but there's a lot a lot of things you could do to enhance the safety of the pedestrians, of the people using that facility, et cetera, et cetera. Look at all the bollards we're putting down on Las Vegas Boulevard, to help prevent cars, trucks, et cetera, from, driving from the roadway into the property, et cetera, or hitting people. Think of it as an engineering challenge, not as a detriment. But those are some of the things. Autonomous vehicles on the boring company, oh, I think it's great. Now, they still got a ways to go in our technology. We're on that cusp of really getting that done. But man, to have that major step and come up with the boring company, with the tunnel, with autonomous vehicles, that's a great major first step to get the AV systems up and running. Now, how do we develop the software, the GIS, et cetera, for the driveways? That's going to be interesting. But good questions.
Okay. Do you think students should apply to internships if they can't be present for the full duration? In other words, she has a summer internship May through August, but there's another one she's interested in that is a year long from May to May. She's wondering if she should apply and state that she can't start until August or wait for the following year.
Good question. Good question. Only, you as the individual, your situations better than the other. Me as the employer, whatnot, just be upfront with me. Be truthful. Don't hide the situation and try and do half of a job on one and then rotate into the other one. No, be upfront, be truthful. Just say, hey, Sam, I've got this opportunity. I want to take your 3-month internship, but I've got this opportunity for a year-long internship. And just talk to me, let me know. I may have the flexibility of starting you early or something like that, or maybe work you for a month or two, and then you move on to the next one. You never know. You never know. But if you don't tell me, and all of a sudden either you cancel the internship or you never show up, or you leave early and I don't know it, then that's a little that leaves a little bit of a burn mark. Be upfront. Just let me know. I'm not saying spill your guts, but at the same time, say, Sam, I'm in a quandary, and I've got a year-long internship that I'm looking hard at. It depends upon your likes, dislikes, and what you can do. My gut feel, I would tend to lean towards the longer internship, more stable, more exposure. But it also really depends on the firm and what you would actually be doing at the firm, what projects would you be working on, et cetera. Very good question. Very tough question.
Any other questions? Go ahead, guys.
Hey Sam, quick question. How would you feel about hiring a person who graduated the previous year and they weren't able to find a job due to the pandemic? How would you go about that?
Don't care.
Oh, okay.
You sell me on yourself. COVID, nasty. Don't get me wrong. Back during the recession many years ago, the county went through their first layoffs, and they've never done layoffs before, and many firms had to go through layoffs, et cetera. Hey, that's beyond your control. COVID is beyond your control. You graduated, whoever, for whatever reason, with COVID in particular, the market was down, et cetera. Hey, be upfront. I got laid off, or I could not find work because of COVID. But here's my resume. I'm sharp. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to work for you. But don't dwell on that aspect of it. Dwell on the positives. I'm here. I can do this for you. This is what I'm going to do. It's not a negative. Only you let it be a negative. Don't sell it as a negative. If they ask you, then be upfront. Be straight up with them. But if they don't ask you, you might make mention of it. That depends on the situation, the setting, how the conversation is going. But go on the positive and what you can do for them.
That's a great point, Sam, to just glance off the virus and say, lost my internship or never got an internship due to the virus, and then pivot right into, but here's what I've got. Yeah, I love that. That's a great point.
I had a good intern, real good, sharp individual at Unlv, and he was getting married, and he was getting into stressful times. The family had financial issues, whatnot, so he was having to take another position, and he just on one day, he just didn't show up. And then he didn't show up for the next day. And I called him and said, "This is what's going on." And he told me the situation. I said, "Okay, understand. That makes very good sense. I understand your pathway and what you need to do. Just send me a letter of resignation. It's better to resign and just say, hey, I've got other opportunities, et cetera, than it is to get quote unquote fired or laid off or whatever from the internship. No, don't do that. Come talk to me and say, hey, I got to change the direction. I need to resign. Here's, give me a brief explanation and let me have you resign, because when somebody calls me later on and says, hey, how do you do it? Oh, he did excellent. Well, why did he leave you early? Well, he had some family issues and talked to me about it, and we were fine about that. But when you hide it or gloss over it on those type of situations, that gets a little dicey.
As I'm listening to you talk about this, what comes to my mind is that the communication between a student and an employer is not really very different from two people in a love relationship. That communication is critical. I mean, you wouldn't walk away from someone without saying, hey, I'm really not feeling this, or, I've got some issues, or you just wouldn't do that, right? So you want to treat your employer with the same respect and communicate. That's so important. Great point.
Good open communications. If something goes wrong, you shove it under the table and try to hide it. I guarantee you it will smell. And
it will come back. Yeah,
it will come back to haunt you. No matter if it's a mistake or an issue or whatever it may be, get it on top of the table, discuss it, and move on. Now, you may take a few lumps, you made an error or whatnot, okay, don't let that happen again, but you respond to it as a professional. You take care of business and you keep moving on, be that your relationship, your job, whatever. But if you let it fester, it's going to get back. I guarantee you that.
So Marcus would like to know, when you're interviewing someone, what personal attributes do you look for that would make you want to hire that person?
I took a couple of minutes. I'll answer the question, but up front, I went to a professional society meeting. This was just 1 or 2 years ago. It was just a monthly luncheon. It was a lot of fun. So I took 2 of the younger engineers with me just to give them some exposure or whatnot. And while I was parking the car, I told them, go on inside and get assigned in, grab some seats, blah, blah, blah. So I walk inside the room, and there's probably 50 people or something like that. There wasn't a huge audience. And I keep looking for the two young guys, and I see them over in the corner, and I kid you not, they're in the corner of the room, looking at each other, looking down at their feet, wondering what to do. Oh, we're Sam. Oh, I don't know what to do. And that kind of shyness and whatnot, I mean, it's really surprised me. It shocked me to see 2 guys off in the corner, not sure what to do until I walked in the room. No. When I'm interviewing and whatnot, I'm looking for somebody to look me in the eye, not all the time, but look me in the eye, shake my hand, and say, hey, I'm here to help you. I'm here, I went to school, I want this internship. I've got, a good, strong work ethic. I want to do well for you. Tell me a little bit about what you're looking for, and I'll tell you if I'm a good match for you. And be open and honest. You got to communicate, and especially when you're in that first meeting and whatnot. Most engineers are not good at selling themselves. You got to get a little bit of salesmanship in there to get that conversation going and open it up. And if you're nervous, think about the first, and like a speech or the first conversation, the first 2 or 3 minutes is going to be great, or it's going to be very slow. So prepare for that first 2 or 3 minutes, not the 30 minutes or the hour or 2 hours, what it's going to take. Get that first couple of minutes under your belt and get it going. And if you got to think about some prepared questions, whatnot, think about, who am I? Why should you choose me? Why should I choose you? And or, hey, I did a little research on your company, and I understand you just started this new expansion project. Can you tell me a little bit about it? And let them open up a little bit, talk a little bit. Or if it's a formal interview, they may just go straight to the questions and whatnot. Get that ball rolling. Get the jitters off your plate a little bit in that first 2 or 3 minutes, and relax a little bit. Just relax. I know you're going to be nervous. I'm nervous. that I'm going to interview you. Just take your time and get it done.
Yeah, that's great. And I love what you said about ask for the position. This is something that our students and really anybody, any candidate, whether they're entry level, they've had several years of experience, it's a difficult thing to ask the potential employer for the job. But a lot of recruiters and talent acquisition folks say they really like hearing, especially students, be bold and say, I'm asking for this position. I really want this position. When can I start?
Yep.
And just go for it.
Yeah. It's that you don't want to be arrogant and brazen and whatnot, but at the same time, you better be bold and brave. You got to put yourself out there. I agree. I totally agree. If you're going to stand there in the chair and hunker down and look down and not look me in the eye and be a little shy, well, I did a little bit of that. And, oh yeah, I got through my classes. Can I have a job, please? That's going to be tough.
This is not the time to be shy. I think the key word right now during COVID is bold, to be bold. And that's how you're going to stand out from other people, is you've got to be bold. You've got, as you showed in that second slide, people have to get past their comfort zone. They've got to start doing things that they might not normally do and push themselves a little bit. And those are the people, it's like the early bird gets the worm. Those are the people that are going to get that worm.
Yep. When UNLV, when they offer the career guidance and the speed interviews and whatnot, those have been ongoing for quite a while. Use that time, volunteer or go to those things, meet with the businesses, meet with the professionals, spend that 1 or 2 minutes on the speed dating, the speed interviewing techniques and whatnot. Practice those things. Don't just go in cold. If you got to talk to your friend or your brother or your sister or whatever, or your folks or whatever, practice with somebody, going back and forth. Some of the questions you can almost guarantee. Tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me a little bit about your education. Tell me a little bit about what you do for fun in life. Blah, blah, blah. You can practice on some of those and get a couple of straightforward answers that you know very well. Get them out there. That gives you comfort and relaxes you. But I agree. You've got to be bold and get out there and ask for that.
Yeah, we have a couple more questions, and I know we're at 5:40 right now, so this has been very, very good, and I think people have learned a lot and they've been very engaged. But let's see if we can address these two fairly quickly.
Yep.
So one person is evidently had an experience where, as a student, was working under a supervisor. Something happened, and the supervisor retaliated with the student working under him or her, and she's wondering, what do you do when you have a very uncomfortable situation like that?
That when in this world, some people are just not good. And when stuff like that happens, ideally, be that technical, be that professional, be that relationships or whatnot. You got to be very careful. Again, what's right is right, what's fair is fair, and what's wrong is wrong. If something wrong happens to you, you need to speak up and talk to a trusted advisor. Go talk to the HR department. Try and find a senior person in that firm, or maybe you go talk to your college professor or whatnot. But you need to get that out there. If there's something that's very inappropriate, et cetera, absolutely you get that out there. Especially if it's inappropriate. I used to chair the State Board of Engineers. So when you go get your PEs, I used to be the person that signed those certificates. And I've seen a lot of crap that's gone on. No, if it's wrong, if it's illegal, et cetera, don't you dare. In this world, you don't put up with that stuff. There's too many good firms out there, too many good people out there. People, try and squeeze you in and just say, hey, I'm gonna pound on you because I can. I'm the boss. No, not at all. There's too many good firms out there. Go find another firm, and you may have to grin and bear it for a month or two until you find a new firm. But don't put up with any crap. Don't you dare. And especially if it's inappropriate, you bring those right up to the individuals, and even if they're the owner of the firm, You can go outside the firm and talk to folks. You can go to the State Board of Engineers. You can go to State of Nevada, the HR folks, et cetera. There's several different ways. There's multiple different ways you can go after it. You don't put up with bad things. Now, somebody wants to be a jerk. That's always tough too. They're not inappropriate, but they're just being a jerk. Sometimes that's their style, and sometimes some people like that. Some people don't. I don't like it. But but you got to feel that out, figure that out for yourself, and figure out what's right and what's wrong for you. And if it's not working, I'm not saying quit at the drop of a hat. No, sometimes you got to get in there and slug. You got to work your way through it, especially on tough jobs that have gotten screwed up, et cetera. You got to work your way through it. But there's certain things, you got to find a way, and you buck up and you get through it. Now, if something's wrong or something like that or illegal, no way. In this world, in particular, as a registered engineer, et cetera, you come before me at the State Board of Engineers. If you lie, you steal, you cheat, all bets are off. There's insurance, whatever, is not going to cover you. Now, I also understand as engineers, we're human. We make mistakes. I understand that. It's how you deal with those mistakes. If you don't deal with them well, I may counsel you and chastise you. But if you're there and you're trying the best you can, and I can see that, and you explain it to me, life is good. We'll work our way through this. But don't lie, don't steal, don't cheat. I can't cover you. Your insurance, your firm cannot cover you for any of that. You just be upfront about it. Again, find a mentor, find a senior person in that firm, or come back to your school, talk to your professors. You gotta get that off your chest. That's not fair. That's not a good way to run your life.
Great answer. Thanks, Sam. Okay, I think this is our last question. How can we apply for an internship that has a higher GPA requirement that we may not meet? Should we inflate it and then address the actual GPA in the cover letter, or try to address the issue with a recruiter to circumvent being weeded out by a computer?
Never lie. It is what it is. If you need a 3.5 and you're at 3.4, it is what it is. But make them turn you down because of that, i.e. the computer or whatnot. I would always do in my cover letter, I'm at 3.4, but I work full time during school. Or I'm at 3.4, I was shooting for a 3.5, but I needed to do the following. To try and put a good explanation out there for that. Or, hey, this last semester, I loaded up with physics, differential equations, Calc 3, whatever, and I was just in that, I was trying to work part-time, and my grades suffered. But come up with not an excuse, but you need to explain, hey, even though I'm at a 3.4, I've done the following. Show those positive attributes out there. I've been members of the student chapters. I was active. I did my competitions, or I've done my internships. Show other things. Let them focus on the good parts, not on the bad parts. And there may be times, in particular on the public side of the house, it says you got to have a 3.5 GPA or whatever. Sometimes that's just the way it is, and that you just got to deal with it. But for the most part, I'm more interested in you as an individual. I may throw that out there, but if you come talk to me and you can show me what you can do and whatnot, I would probably give you the opportunity to advance.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I tell students all the time, apply to everything. Make the company eliminate you, never eliminate yourself.
Yep.
Even if you think, oh, I've got a low GPA and they're wanting this higher, I'd go for it, because there may be something in your resume or your cover letter that sparks them, that steps out and resonates with them, and they may bring you in for an interview. You just never know. It's such a subjective process.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And even if, and believe me, even if somebody says no, or you're quote unquote not qualified or whatnot, don't take that as a negative. Learn from it. Learn, and if you can, if they'll respond to you, and most of the times they won't because liability and all that, but say, hey, what can I do? What could I have done to do better? Why didn't you like my resume or whatnot, or my experience, and try and learn from that. And try and build off of that. But don't take that as a downer. Don't do that. No, there's a lot of different folks out there. I may be looking for a specific individual that has that software experience on that kind of project, and that's what I need right now. So don't take it personal that I didn't select you. There may be other reasons for that. And quite frankly, a lot of different than private firms, they may have a friend of a friend that's saying, hey, yeah, I can do this, and they meet the minimums, whatever, and then they select. You can't worry about that. There's certain things you can control, certain things you can't. Those you can't control, don't worry about it. Keep moving. Keep your chin up and stay positive.
That's right. Absolutely right on. Okay, I think we do have one more question. It's from Diego. He said, what advice could you give to graduating seniors to improve themselves for potential future employers? Great question to end on.
It's not going to happen overnight. You've had 4, 5, 6 years, whatever, to get through school, etc. Each year, each month, each day, you need to be looking ahead to try and build that resume. What are some of the outside curricular activities you can do, etc.? What can you do to build those up? Now, when you're graduating and you're out there looking, do your homework. Go into the yellow pages, go on site and try and list out all the major civil engineering firms. Call me and say, okay, Sam, I've identified the following 12 firms. Do you know anybody there? Do you know anything going on and whatnot? And I'll look at the list and say, I know 10 of the 12 firms, and I know people at 8 of the 10 firms. Here's who you need to contact. Use your resources. Think outside the box. Use other folks to help you find out information on these firms. So 1, you can see if it's a good fit for you, but 2, you need to find individuals within that firm. When you ship off an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper called a resume, and you ship it blindly to your firm and say, please hire me, chances are that's not going to fly. Now, you can play the numbers game and you can apply to 200, 300, 400 firms, but that's a numbers game. You need to, when you can find the individuals that you've met at least once before, or your mentor or your college professor has met before, at least you got a warm introduction and whatnot, your chances of getting hired are much better. Unless there's a specific attribute or experience that they're looking for, i.e. you're an expert in GIS, 3D, or whatever. Typically, they're looking for people that they've known or they have a well-written resume. Don't just solely rely upon the resume. It's just a bunch of words. You've got to get in front of the people and sell them. You've got to find a good way to get that face time to up those odds so that you can find a good position with them. And that's easier said than done.
It is, but for the people who can do that right now, because most people are not thinking that way right now. Most people are in lockdown thinking, oh, I shouldn't go out, I shouldn't do this. But for the people who push past that comfort zone and are able to get in front of employers, firms, companies, you guys are networking yourselves into positions.
Yes.
And now is the time to flip it and go for it, because most people aren't thinking that way.
Yeah. Remember, like we're saying, if I have a position open, be that an internship or a career job, I want to fill that. And I need good quality people to fill it. When I know people or I've met people, I can call you or interview or call a friend or whatever, say, hey, I need this and this. And they say, well, you need to go talk to John Paul, whomever, and bring them in there and talk to them. I'd much rather do that than I would go through a pile of resumes that people I've never met before and trying to figure out on a piece of paper, what do I think? That personal touch, much better. Sometimes you're just stuck and you got to do the paper. I understand that. But when you have that personal contact, man, that makes a huge difference in my mind.
It really, really does. I tell folks all the time, try an informational interview, research the company online that you're interested in, look for the staff, and find a project engineer in an area that you are very interested in learning about. Email that project engineer and ask for 15 minutes of their time
Yep.
preferably in person. If not in person, a virtual chat.
Yep.
But keep it to 15 minutes because they're busy people. They'll most likely give you 10 or 15 minutes, not much more, but that's a way to connect. And then have your questions prepared, make them impactful, as Sam said, make them brave and interesting. And now you've got a connection. Now
Absolutely.
you've got somebody within that company. Who is doing that right now? Not very many people, folks.
No.
Not very
No.
many people.
This slide here, you know, that's my email, palmer@clarkcountynv.gov. That's my public email. I throw that out there. I put that on all the presentations. And in particular to you all, if you got a question, email me. You know why I say that? Because out of if there's 40 on the phone call, I bet you only 2 or 3 may ever in their lifetime email me. Don't do that. I'm a resource for you. If you're trying to go find a job with Bechtel International, call me. Jim Wild used to be one of the best Bechtel folks that I knew. I would call Jim, put you in front of him and say, Jim, I don't really know this person, but I've seen their resume. I've talked to them. You need to interview them.
Okay, Sam, you just said something, and I'm going to jump in here because I need a contact with Bechtel. And if you've got one, I need it. So here's how you do it, folks, right here.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
I just told Sam we don't have a connection with Bechtel and we want one. So I'll be calling you, Sam, and asking for an introduction to Bechtel because that's a huge company that hires a lot of engineers, and we're trying to get more regional and more national, not just local. So
Yes, absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
that would be fantastic. Folks, I think we're going to have to wrap it up on that note. Very engaging presentation. Sam Palmer with Clark County. Thank you so very much for being with us today. Fascinating. You covered so much information and clearly really had our students engaged. Students, great questions. You all never cease to amaze me. I love working with the engineers. I think you're the brightest stars on campus, whether you think you are or not, you really are. And we just have to get bolder and more confident, especially now. So this is not the time to shrink.
That's right.
This is the time to stand up and move forward. So with that, I'm going to plug quickly our next webinar, which is going to be, and you mentioned it, with Doa Ross Mead. It's going to be March the 2nd at 4 p.m. She's going to be talking about breaking the mold of a traditional engineer. March 2nd, 4 p.m. Check our website at www.unlv.edu/engineering/jobs and look for the calendar at the bottom of the page, and you'll see all of our engineering excellence webinars. Thanks, everybody.
Dora is a UNLV grad. She loves UNLV grad. She's one of the senior folks over the Water District. Don't miss her. Don't miss her presentations. She's very good and she's very passionate.
She is, and she's a player in town.
Yes.
She's a big name. Everybody knows her. I think she's also on our board, perhaps.
Yes.
I'm not sure. I think she is. So we're really taking advantage of our boards this semester, which it's about time. I don't know why I've been so slow to look at our advisory boards, but we've got all these employers on the advisory boards, and you guys are stepping up this semester, which is great. And I really, really appreciate it. So we love having you connect to the students and vice versa. So again, Sam, thank you so much. Students, thanks for joining us. I hope you learned something today. And remember, what was that? So this is what I'm going to start doing. What's one thing you heard today that you're going to implement right away? So type that in the chat really quickly. What's one thing you heard today from Sam or me that you're going to implement right away? So I want, if you be bold and ask for a job or internship, be brave. Good. Anything else?
Find a friend.
Ask for the position. Contact Sam. Yes. I love it. Awesome. Find friends in class. Excellent, Marcus. So see, this is what we have to do. Have a precision resume with impact. Very, very good. So now go put this into practice. Don't just let this be a nice webinar that you just heard a bunch of great stuff on. Actually put it into practice. That's how you move the needle. Go join your student organizations. That's right, Evangeline. Very good.
Yep.
Awesome.
Get out of your comfort zone.
I think they heard you, Sam. Get out of your comfort zone. Yep, that's right. Now's the time. Don't let all this negative energy out in the world pull you down. You just get stronger and push through. I tell this, I'll end on this very, very quick story. So I just recently drove to Sedona, Arizona, and I hit 3 snowstorms on the way. Totally unprepared. Totally unprepared. And I have a little sports coupe, which is very light and slides very easily on the ice. But I remembered a story that somebody told me about the difference between buffaloes and cows and how they react in a snowstorm. It's a very interesting story. So when a snowstorm hits cows, cows turn and run away from the snowstorm. And guess what happens? They become exhausted very quickly. They're trying to outrun the storm, and they end up falling and dying because they made the wrong decision. But buffaloes, you know what buffaloes do? They turn and face the storm. They know if they face the storm and push through it, they're going to come out on the other side. And there's my little story for you today. So, and I had to do the same thing on the way to Arizona a few days ago. I had to drive through 3 different snowstorms. I knew I couldn't exit. There was too much snow. I'd get stuck. I had to push through. And fortunately, it worked out. So there you go, guys. You got to push through, get to the other side. You can do this. We believe in you, so you need to believe in yourself.
Yep, absolutely.
And with that, have a great evening.
See you, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Thank you, Sam.
You bet. Good night.